Zoos are meant to be places of wonder where people safely admire wild animals up close. But sometimes, curiosity, carelessness, or sheer bad luck turns a fun day out into a nightmare. These are the most disturbing deaths of zoo visitors, stories where danger escaped the cage with tragic consequences. In the quiet midday heat of August 28, 2022, a tragic and baffling event unfolded at the Prague Zoo in Ghana. It wasn't a typical Sunday at the zoo with giggling children, wide-eyed visitors feeding goats, or tourists marveling at the rare white lion cubs. Instead, it became the scene of a fatal encounter between man and beast, one that left more questions than answers. A middle-aged man, whose identity was never officially released, somehow managed to breach not just one, but 2 levels of security, scaling a 10-foot outer fence and then a 20-foot inner wall to get inside the lion enclosure. Why he did it is still a matter of speculation. Some believe he intended to steal the prized white lion cubs, which are extremely rare and valuable on the black market. Others suggest it may have been a dare, a delusion, or even a misguided attempt at a spiritual ritual. Regardless of the motive, one thing is clear. Once he stepped into that enclosure, he stepped far outside the boundaries of safety, both physical and natural. Inside were not just any lions, but a protective lion family. And the male, Melvin, was not having any unexpected visitors that day. Lions are territorial by nature, and even more so when protecting their young. Within moments of the intrusion, the man was attacked. Witnesses reported hearing roaring and commotion before zoo staff rushed to the scene. The aftermath was gruesome, with officials later recovering the man's lifeless body from the enclosure and confirming he had died from severe injuries sustained during the mauling. What shocked many wasn't just the attack itself, but the sheer recklessness of the act. Zoos are designed with multiple layers of security, not just to protect animals from humans, but more importantly, humans from animals. Melvin and his pride didn't escape or break out of their space. They were in their home, doing exactly what nature wired them to do. The Ghana Forestry Commission acted quickly to close the zoo and launch a full investigation, confirming that all animals were secure and that no staff had been at fault. The statement they released also highlighted the need for the public to respect zoo boundaries, reminding people that enclosures are not just walls, but lifelines designed to preserve life on both sides. The tragic incident sparked international headlines and online debate, with many asking how such a security breach was even possible, and whether additional safeguards should be implemented. It also brought renewed attention to the risks faced by both humans and animals when curiosity or poor judgment crosses the line into danger. Melvin the lion didn't choose this. He wasn't a rogue animal or an aggressive beast on the loose. He was simply a protective father responding to a sudden and confusing threat in his space in front of his mate and cubs. Unfortunately, the consequences were fatal for the trespasser and deeply unsettling for the zookeepers and wildlife community who work daily to keep both animals and humans safe. In a way, this incident serves as a grim but important reminder that wild animals, no matter how used to captivity they may seem, still operate by the rules of the wild. There are boundaries for a reason. And when those boundaries are ignored, disrespected, or foolishly crossed, tragedy is often not far behind. The Prague Zoo has since reviewed its protocols, and while the animals remain unharmed, the emotional toll on staff and the public remains very real. Melvin, meanwhile, is still in his enclosure, still a lion, still a father, and still a creature of instinct. Unchanged by the headlines, but forever marked by the day a stranger dared to enter his world. In January 2017, a tragic and widely publicized incident unfolded at the Yungar Wildlife Park, more commonly known as Ningbo Zoo, in China's Zhejiang province. A middle-aged man, later identified as Mr. Zhang, attempted to bypass the zoo's entrance fee by scaling a 3-meter wall with the intention of sneaking into the park. What began as a misguided effort to save money quickly turned into a horrifying and fatal mistake. After climbing over the first wall and slipping past further barriers, Zhang ended up inside the tiger enclosure, home to several adult Bengal tigers. Within moments of entering, he was spotted by the animals who, confused and curious, approached him. At first, onlookers and his own family who had entered the park legally and were completely unaware of his plan, watched in shock as the tigers surrounded him. The situation escalated rapidly as one tiger lunged, clamping down on Zhang's neck and dragging him across the enclosure. Zoo staff responded with urgency, attempting to scare the animals away using firecrackers and water hoses, but the tiger refused to release its grip. In front of stunned visitors, including Zhang's wife and children, the attack continued until police were called in, and one of the tigers was shot and killed in an effort to rescue him. Zhang was eventually retrieved and rushed to a nearby hospital, but the injuries were far too severe and he was pronounced dead shortly after. The story made headlines across China and beyond, prompting an outpouring of public reaction that ranged from sorrow to outrage. Many criticized the zoo for what they saw as inadequate security, claiming the outer wall was too easy to scale. Others condemned Zhang's recklessness, pointing out that signs had been clearly posted warning of the dangers and marking the area as a restricted zone. Online discussions reflected a broader debate, with some mourning the loss of human life, while others were deeply saddened by the death of the tiger, which had only acted on instinct within its territory. The incident also revived memories of similar attacks, including the notorious Battling Wildlife World incident just a year prior, where a woman was mauled after stepping out of her vehicle inside a tiger safari zone. In both cases, a combination of human error and underestimation of animal behavior had led to devastating consequences. Zhang's story stands as a somber reminder that wild animals, even those kept in enclosures, are not and will never be tame. A tiger's instinct is to investigate, stalk, and if provoked or simply confused, strike. These animals are not villains. They are apex predators responding to unfamiliar stimuli in their domain. While zoos can and should uphold the highest safety standards, the responsibility also lies with visitors to respect boundaries, both literal and ethical. In the end, a father's decision to cut corners cost him his life, traumatized his family, and resulted in the unnecessary death of a captive tiger. No amount of cost saving was worth the price that was ultimately paid. The Ningbo Zoo incident continues to be cited in safety discussions, animal rights debates, and risk management courses, not just as a news story, but as a haunting case study of what can happen when caution is ignored and nature is underestimated. In the summer of 2002, Prague Zoo became the site of a grim and cautionary tale when 35-year-old Joseph Dominik made a decision that would cost him his life. Late one night, after the zoo had closed its gates to the public and the animals had settled into their nighttime routines, Dominik managed to breach the secure perimeter of the tiger enclosure. According to reports at the time, he had been drinking, and though the exact motivation remains unknown, he allegedly wanted to pet the tigers, a baffling and fatal miscalculation. Climbing over the safety barriers and fences that clearly marked the restricted area, he entered a space occupied by one of nature's most powerful predators. Tigers are not just big striped cats, they are apex hunters, territorial by nature and not remotely domesticated. When Dominik stepped into their enclosure, the animals reacted as any wild tiger might. They saw an intruder, not a visitor. What followed was as tragic as it was preventable. His body was discovered the next morning, mauled and lifeless, the scene confirming what everyone feared. It was not a zoo error, not a security flaw, and certainly not a random accident. This was a direct consequence of ignoring clearly posted warnings and common sense. The zoo, understandably, was shaken. Not only did the incident spark public alarm, but it also raised the dreaded question of whether the tiger or tigers should be euthanized. Thankfully, authorities and zoo officials agreed that the animals had done nothing wrong. They were simply reacting on instinct, protecting their territory from what they perceived as a threat. No disciplinary action was taken against the animals. The enclosure had been secure, the signage was in place, and the zoo had followed every safety regulation required. The truth was hard to escape. This was not a case of animal aggression, but human recklessness. The tragedy served as a painful reminder that wild animals, no matter how long they've lived in captivity, are still wild. They are not pets, not playthings, and certainly not creatures to be approached in their own space for thrill or curiosity. In the days that followed, the story made headlines across Europe. Some mourned the loss, others debated how such an incident could even happen in a modern zoo. And while public opinion was split, some blaming the zoo, others blaming the man, It was clear to most observers that this was a sobering example of what happens when boundaries between humans and wild animals are ignored. Josef Dominik's death wasn't just a tragic event, it became a stark warning etched into the history of the Prague Zoo. And while it would be easy to paint this as a bizarre or even foolish decision made under the influence, the more important takeaway lies in respecting nature's boundaries. Zoos are places of education and conservation, but they are not playgrounds. The animals inside are not characters from cartoon or selfie props. They're living beings with instincts that don't switch off because a human walks in with good intentions. Ultimately, the Josef Dominik case reminds us of the fragile line between fascination and danger. It's one thing to admire tigers from a safe distance, to marvel at their beauty and strength. It's another thing entirely to step into their domain uninvited. And unfortunately for Josef, that distinction was learned too late. At the Gondwana Game Reserve in South Africa, where luxury meets lion roars and elephant selfies are practically a rite of passage, tragedy and wild unpredictability collided in the most dramatic and heartbreakingly real way. FC Conradi, the 39-year-old co-owner, CEO, and unofficial elephant whisperer of the place, met his end not at the hands of poachers or corporate drama, but under the massive feet of one of the very animals he adored. You read that right? Trampled by an elephant. Not in some wild action movie chase scene, but during a seemingly routine morning stroll to gently nudge a herd of elephants away from the posh tourist lodges. You know, just another day at the safari office. Except this time it wasn't. Around 8 a.m. on July 22nd, 2025, as FC tried to move the herd, probably with his signature calm voice and I got this energy, one particularly moody 6-ton bull elephant decided it wasn't in the mood for polite direction. With no warning, it charged. We are talking tusks, feet, full elephant fury, and just like that, the reserve's beloved CEO, a man with degrees in zoology and business, was tragically gone before the morning coffee even kicked in. Rangers on site couldn't do a thing. By the time help arrived, FC had already suffered fatal injuries. It was a shocking blow, not just to the reserve, but to the world of wildlife conservation. This guy wasn't just some rich dude playing safari. He was genuinely passionate about wildlife, conservation, and running one of the swankiest game reserves in the country. The Gondwana team was shattered, releasing a tearjerker tribute that begged the public to let the man's legacy speak louder than the inevitable online rumors and wild theories. What makes this even more mind-boggling is that this wasn't even the first time the elephants at Gondwana had beef with the staff. In March 2024, David Candela, a 36-year-old field guide, was also killed by an elephant while leading a group near the reserve's eco-tent lodge. Same reserve, similar circumstances, eerily familiar outcome. Are the elephants organizing some kind of union or revenge arc? No one knows. But suddenly those peaceful sunrise game drives feel a lot more like episodes of When Nature Attacks. Despite all this, the reserve's management is taking a chill approach. The elephant involved hasn't shown any unusual behavior, so they're keeping him in the reserve for now, monitoring his mood and maybe playing him some calming music or something equally soothing. But the decision not to remove the animal has sparked debates. Was this a freak accident or a predictable tragedy? Should wild animals in conservation parks be treated with kid gloves, or should there be consequences? Meanwhile, visitors are still rolling in, clutching their binoculars a little tighter and double-checking that no elephant is eyeballing them like they just stepped into a scene from Jurassic Park Savannah Edition. FC's story is a potent reminder of the wild in wildlife. These aren't oversized pets. They're 6-ton powerhouses with moods, instincts, and zero chill when provoked. Safaris and close encounters with nature's giants, the truth is that the wild doesn't read the script. One moment it's majestic, next moment it's deadly. So here's to FC Conradi, a man who lived and died by the wild. He wasn't just leading a game reserve, he was part of its rhythm, its danger, its beauty. His death is a sobering chapter in the safari tale book, a reminder that behind every magical elephant photo is a powerful creature that doesn't always play nice. It was meant to be the adventure of a lifetime, a dream safari through the breathtaking wilderness of Zambia's Kafue National Park, where the air hums with bird calls and the landscape stretches wide under the African sun. Among the group of tourists was Gail Matson, a 79-year-old woman from Minnesota with a deep love for travel and wildlife. For her, this wasn't just another trip. It was a bucket list moment, a chance to experience elephants in their natural habitat, not behind glass or fences. But what was supposed to be awe-inspiring quickly turned tragic. During a game drive, the group encountered a large bull elephant, and while safari-goers are used to such close encounters, something about this one felt different. The elephant appeared agitated, its movements more deliberate, its posture more tense. Before the driver could reverse or navigate away, blocked by thick brush on both sides, the elephant suddenly charged. The massive animal stormed the vehicle, using its tusks and sheer strength to flip it over like a toy truck. In the chaos that followed, Gale was fatally injured, while 5 others sustained injuries. The footage captured moments before the impact, circulating widely on YouTube and news platforms, shows the elephant approaching steadily as a passenger nervously films the escalating situation. The guide, unable to escape due to terrain and vegetation, had no choice but to shout and brace. The video cuts out before the moment of impact, but the damage was all too real. Park authorities later confirmed the elephant had not shown prior aggressive behavior, calling the attack sudden and unpredictable. The incident ignited global debate about the balance between ecotourism and wildlife safety. While these safaris offer a profound connection to nature, they also carry risks that sometimes, tragically, cannot be controlled. Experts weighed in, noting that elephants, especially lone bulls, can be unpredictable, particularly during musth, a period of heightened testosterone that can fuel aggression. While it is not confirmed if this elephant was in musth, the behavior was erratic and forceful enough to cause alarm. The incident was not just a freak accident. It became a painful reminder that wildlife, no matter how majestic or calm they may seem, are still wild. Friends and family of Gail Matson described her as adventurous, compassionate, and endlessly curious about the world. Her death sparked mourning in her hometown, as well as reflections across the safari tourism industry. It also raised tough questions about whether the guides were properly trained, whether the vehicle was appropriately equipped, and whether park safety protocols were enough. In response, tour operators began reassessing driving routes, guide training, and emergency response tactics. Even veteran rangers acknowledged that nothing in years of experience could always prepare you for a bull elephant with a grudge and a clear path to charge. Yet, amid the sorrow and shock, some found inspiration in Gail's legacy. Her family shared that she would not want fear to stop others from experiencing the world's natural wonders, but she would want everyone to do it smartly, with caution and respect. It is a poignant reminder that the same force of nature we travel so far to admire deserves both our admiration and our understanding. Because when you are in the wild, you are not just a tourist with a camera, you are a guest in someone else's territory. And sometimes the host makes it very clear who is in charge.